Hello, good to see you again. Yes, I had the space plague. Yes, that's well and truly been my problem. Let me just kind of align things a bit better for you. You don't want to see my ugly mug. You want to see what the theme is tonight. So let's start from scratch here. Being a Doctor Who fan from the 70s, the behind the sofa concept, the sitting there rooted to the carpet, ready to be scared, was quite normal. Was addictive. We all know the moments Mary Whitehouse complained about when she thought Doctor Who went too far. But it made me wonder when I look back, does television ever know how to scare and thrill its audiences truly? Because apart from Doctor Who and a couple of other instances, does television really scare people? Does it? Because I'm starting to wonder whether actually this is a misnomer. So that's one thing we're going to look at. I mean, you hear Russell T Davies, don't you, talking about a Doctor Who episode, saying it's fun, it's hilarious, it's light, it's farce. He never talks about it being scary. Why not? Surely that was Doctor Who's USP. And scaring people and kids is good for your imagination, good for your adrenaline, good for your memory. Anyway, I have a panel to discuss this, but to join in with your memories and weird things that scared, get it, fill them in the thread. Because something that scared me, like that Paulus the Wood-Gnome witch in the corner there, you might go, what the hell? But you might mention something that triggers us. Nostalgia's a funny thing, isn't it? So please get your memories ticking away. What scared you on TV? Not movies. TV. We're talking TV. So have a good think about that. But we'll have two little kind of short items as well, just to spice it up on comedy and also on spy TV. So there's plenty to get your teeth into. And I've got a panel to help us with that. So we've all got different ideas, different experiences, different ages, different countries. So let me just kind of round the corner there. So we've got the carry on screen. Remember, I've got carry on movie posters that will represent every topic we do. So of course, as I have been saying, we'll have spying TV on tonight, and we'll also be looking at what made us laugh. Okay, so there's quite a lot to really get our teeth into. So I do need to get people on, don't I? So let's start with who's first on the rank here. Hold on. Oh, it's playing up tonight. Isn't that interesting? Well, let's get people on, and then you won't notice. Apparently, hiya, Sean.
Hi, Brendan. Nice to be back. Cheers.
It was playing up there straight away. You know, that's just what you want.
What can you do? It happens.
It does. I might as well keep going dead fast, and then nobody will notice anything. Okay, we've got Cliff in Texas. Good to see you, Cliff.
I'm obliged to say howdy. Is that right?
You are obliged to say that. Exactly, very right. I'm going to try my other panel screen for a second. The one that decided it didn't want to play ball, and just check it works, because it should actually. Yeah, it's not playing ball there. That's interesting. Okay, right. So sorry about that, everybody. There's a way I can work that out in a minute. Right. Okay. So let's get going on this one. So you know that the main topic tonight really is about what scared you. So I'll just start with a few, lads, and see where you kind of come in on this one. Yeah. I'm starting here. Paulus the Wood-Gnome. I'm a kid of about 3. She was the witch. There was a song at the beginning, she's going to come and get you. And I do vividly, it's visceral. I remember the fear when this, I think, was on at midday. And I would be really scared rigidly that she would catch this little wood gnome, but also that she could catch us. I mean, she's a looker, isn't she? So Paulus the Wood Gnome is my starter for 10. So does anybody want to kind of balance that up with anything from their childhood straight away? What about you, Cliff?
The only context I have would be something similar here. Here we had, I guess it was a group of guys try to do something similar on the weekend for kids, and it was this whole Sid and Marty Krofft, which spawned out into Land of the Lost and things like that in the later 70s. But there was a what was the name of it? It started off with Davy Jones from the Monkees. And I'm trying to remember the name of it. With he had a magical flute, and the dragon friend was it's vague in my mind, but it was more of an adventure thing and less scare. I would have to look in the chat later on to see how many Americans remember scares that young. But there was that. There was a little bit of that. It was mostly kind of camp on our end, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Sean, anything comes to mind from your childhood, particularly?
Yeah. I mean, God, I'm going to show the difference in age now. It would be, and I'll save a few for later, but it would be the Demon Headmaster, like not terrifyingly so, but like in a more of a creepy, not that kind of creepy way, but it was just that kind of the idea that you could get away with nothing. That's a decent one. And I was thinking, and I do mean the TV adaptation, the BBC adaptation. God, I remember when the BBC did good things. The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where the White Witch was turning creatures into stone and feeding you Turkish delight that was like would turn you to her way of thinking and make it evil. Yeah, I quite obviously saw that in primary, so yeah, made an impression.
So we're all different ages, different continents here, and I just started with a simple one: childhood fears, if they were ever utilized in TV. Obviously, we're going to build to various things. I just want to say hello to a very busy thread at the moment, and of course, they will tell us things that we've either never seen, heard of, or whatever. And so tonight's thread, you need to.
My memory too with the HR Puffin stuff is what it was.
Yeah, well, exactly. Lee Smith, for example. Everybody in the thread may have to, if you name a show, you may have to say a little bit about what it is, because everybody, I think, as Cliff has just said, we may not have heard of the show ourselves, but everybody might decide to go and look it up later. It's one of those, isn't it? Anyone remember the freaky cushion puppet from Hickory House? Well, I remember Hickory House, but yes, I think I do now. You've got me going. Raymond Williams, I know the Doctor Who detox is Fridays, but I know he's got in early. Rogue was so scary, I refused to come back. Are you talking about Doctor Who? Neville's behind the sofa now. Well, the space plague is gone. I haven't got it. But yes, it's obviously actually the space plague's on all my blooming technology, it seems. Hello, Stephen. Everyone, yes, I remember when not just Doctor Who, but even children's TV used to be scary. I tell you what, I'm going to mention the public service information films a bit later, because I think they were probably one of the scariest things around.
Oh, yeah. So were I tell you, in my time, there were the Think adverts. You know, those ones that were like, Peter will die tonight in his sleep. He's warm, cozy, and has his family by his side. And then it would pan out, and all his family was out there in the car. They were all asleep. And then the car would just ram I think the American central divider, flip over, or like the one that went through the fence and took the kid out. And like, the advert, tell you which one freaked me out. The advert, God, it's about 15-year-old. The advert that was about like counterfeit pills online, and the guy starts like choking, and he's like, heh, heh. And then he pulls the rat's tail and the whole rat out of his mouth and drops it on the floor. Oh, that's horrendous.
It does make me wonder about mental health nowadays and what kids deal with, because when we were kids in the 70s, as an example, I've just looked at a few tonight. Does anyone in the thread, if they're old enough, remember all these? You know, there was the railway line one. There was the power line one, if your frisbee hit it. If you had a polished lino in your house and you put a rug on top, your man's going to come home from work, slip and break his neck. You had all these things going on. You had the lagoon where all the kids went swimming, but there's a wreck of a car underneath. It's going to grab your legs and you're going to drown. It just went on and on and on. How did any of us go out on a bike? I tell you what, TV was very scary in the 70s.
I can say that I've only seen those since being an adult over here in the U.S. Like, you know, here's some retro British safety film stuff from telly. And I don't know how you guys decided to go off the island quite honestly. It seemed like it was all just geared for terror. We had similar stuff, but there was always a little jazzy little song or something to go along with it. They were terrifying.
Yeah. Oh no,
we have those too.
But ours could be pretty whoa, full on. So I don't know if people are remembering then. Mad Mackham, who obviously is up in Sunderland, TV was doomed as soon as channels started adding, please call this number if you've been affected by the issues raised in this program. Yeah, you're spot on, What I think I said in my intro, you do need to be scared. You do need an adrenaline rush. You need your imagination sparked. And you do need sometimes to know where your mum and dad are in the house. I mean, I have to say, come on, this is what it's all about. The feeling of security makes you appreciate what you've got. We all need to know where we stand. Raymond Williams, I've got a photograph of this later. Salem's Lot, the tapping on the window. Whoa, that was off the scale. Now, Sean, do you want to try one more memory for now before we really go for some of the debate points I've got here, and then I'll ask Cliff as well. So, have you got another one? It doesn't have to be childhood, but a TV program that you would say had a scary moment in it that really worked.
I mean, the whole bloody thing, but Threads, which I was shown. I mean, obviously, it's before my time, but I was shown that. God, quite young, and that was, it's just a horrendous show to watch, and I think it's like coloured my view of radiation series since. Obviously, I'm going to mention some more of those later, but I think it's one of those shows that once you've seen it, you kind of can't unsee it, and I think the fact that it's so low budget and they had to work with all the constraints and. It just shows what the BBC could do back then with so little money. And of course, as most of your thread know from Doctor Who, such creativity that will win out. Great.
I agree with Threads, and Threads has been mentioned by somebody else in the thread. I think it was Paul Richards, but Survivors, Terry Nation Survivors, because that was post-apocalypse. And that was pretty grim. I mean, it was again in the 70s. And as a kid, you thought, God, is this what it's going to be like? Mind you, I say post-apocalypse. I can't remember if it was a disease, wasn't it? It was a plague that.
I saw the remake of that. Yeah, I saw the remake in the early 2000s.
That's one on my list. My first, because it was so. It about 10 minutes into the show, it's very, very bleak, very, very dreadful, very, very hard to watch. Survivors was. It came later. I do remember my very first scare, and this goes back to either I was very isolated as a child, or didn't get a lot of exposure to stuff. But that's Space 1999. Jerry Anderson stuff came on, and for some reason, getting into that, it was still on later at night, and staying up late and watching that. I finally got to UFO. And I don't know if anybody remembers that or was scared by that, but that genuinely, I think, is my first TV creep out.
Well, I'm going to line up a few here, see what the thread and yourselves think. It's not whether you agree with me. It's whether it fires up another spark in you. Me and Jamie were talking about this. A cartoon. It was the intro to the original Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? It actually does scare. And actually, some of the clips in the beginning of the intro, you think, I just want to check if my mum is about. I think the ghosts, the mystery element, and it was really, I mean, look, that's Hammer House of Horror, but done with cartoon. It's fantastic. So Scooby-Doo, I'm naming. Planet of the Apes. Now, I said this is talking TV. The TV series I found really scary. Those apes were vicious, and every week the theme tune had you, oh my God, on edge, because there you got that brilliant silhouette of that ape on a horse with the sun behind. He was in silhouette. He's got his rifle, and you're not going to mess with him. And every week he had our two kind of heroes, just trying to avoid them. Fantastic. Absolutely loved Planet of the Apes. So there's two more. But just before, hopefully I've got you all fired up with different things here. The other thing is, it's the darkness, it's shadows. Yes, I was a creature of the 70s. The Sea Devils. In the Sea Devil Fort, in the Sea Base Fort in episodes 1 and 2, the clanking of them down the corridors, especially when you heard the heavy breathing of the man on the Sea Fort base, the clanging of the when they attack the submarine, and they're whispering, as I've always said on my streams with Doctor Who. A whispering villain, I always find, is more sinister and scary than the ones who shout that they're going to take over the universe. So the Sea Devils, for me, coming out the water, somewhere that, could attack us. Or Raymond Williams, I can just see you've mentioned Tales of the Unexpected. I've got one later, don't you worry. For me, anyway. That hand in Carnival of Monsters had me flipping as a little 4-year-old. Absolutely freaked me out that the Doctor's daddies could be nicked so easy. And obviously, people older might have said with Doctor Who, the Dalek coming out of the River Thames might have just about done it, because everybody thought you could just have the Daleks on the Metal City planet by that point. And then a lot of the people who've been on our streams and in our threads have said the end of episode 1 cliffhanger of Terror of the Zygons, when the nurse turns into a Zygon and goes to attack Sarah. I mean, there's a few for you lads to kind of get you fired up. And I know you mentioned Cliff Davros.
Yeah, my actual first experience with Who was being over at a buddy's house, just playing with Star Wars figures or something. And he called me in to watch watch Doctor Who, and I'd never heard of it. And it was the first scenes of episode 1 of Genesis of the Daleks. And it's, out in the wasteland. There's people getting shot, landmines. I was just wrapped and terrified. Didn't know what was going to happen, and then they stopped, and you had to tune in next week. But this just from like you said, the lighting, the pacing, and we're going to get into whether they do this kind of thing now, which I would attest that they kind of don't. But it was really, really immersive, an immersive kind of dread and fear.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not going to get distracted by from what Rtd did last year with Davros. But when you saw when you saw the original Davros in that ruin, away from the Khaled city, because it was a secret project, wasn't it, of the new Dalek project travel machine Mark III. When you just saw this man in the distance, and you got a glimpse of what looked like a Dalek base, but you weren't sure because it pans very fast, the camera, and his whispering, and the thing about the original Davros, I'm not too sure about the metallic hand he's got now, but when he just had his kind of humanoid, stretched skin, emaciated hand, when he would flick the switch, I honestly. And so he said, right, watch very carefully, against that moment. And I think it was added to because you had Sarah, who was lost and being chased by Mutos. She was trying to find a refuge. Then there's this skeletal, emaciated villain inside. You could tell he was a villain straight away. This was fab stuff. And then you had the Daleks on top. Sean, am I getting you salivating here over any Doctor Who that scared you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, I'm a different generation to Doctor Who, and I got the Eccleston run. I mean, because I think people forget, there was some silliness in that series, but I mean, the gas mask zombies, those that two-parter, the scene where Richard Wilson as the Doctor, he he succumbs to this plague, and he, that scene where he's starts to say mummy, and his whole face morphs into a gas mask. Now, they're of the time, so looking back now 20 years later, the CGI doesn't, it's a bit ropey, but watching that at the time was just unbelievable as a kid, and you were just like, oh my god. And then seeing everybody with the same injuries, and I think there's so much of that first series. Yeah, that's the one I loved, and I'm glad in a way we never got them back. But you had the the Reapers from Father's Day as well. I thought they were great villains. Again, yeah, the CGI is ropey when you look back, but I love the noise. I love the idea of them. This swarm that if time was damaged, they would swoop in and the Doctor is lost because my people would have sorted this out, but they're all gone. There's only me left. And of course, I've said it, and I am slowly but surely working my way through the classic Doctor Who, but I went in straight from 2005 Doctor Who, so I've got RTD to thank for that. Genuinely, I'll forgive him for later, ish, for now. And I just, there's so many fond memories of that first series in particular. The Dalek, because I've never seen Daleks before. Didn't have a clue, you know, because I know people. It's easy to kind of forget and think that, oh, everyone knows what Daleks are and everyone knows what Cybermen are. To be honest, unless your dad or an uncle or mum or whoever was into Doctor Who, if you were born in like the 90s or, you know, it wasn't around. Really,
so obviously
for me,
tonight
anyway.
I was asking because I mean I'm just sparking memories up, but the point is that there was there's a debate I've set up. Has television forgotten how to scare audiences? Now there's a premise here, which is they did scare audiences. Now we've mentioned a few scary moments. Do you think? You see, because I do have a theory here. I'm not too sure television has ever been very good at doing this. I think it's been very good at entertaining. I think it's been very good at doing adventure series. I think it's been good at soap opera and various other things. But I don't think TV, unlike movies, has done much that really has scared people. And more to the point, lads, the other thing I'm going to ask is that you can answer on this as well. I wonder whether in 2025, this concept of safe spaces, TV execs will avoid scaring people because they don't want to actually do anything crazy. You know, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely agree. I think that there was a time when TV was scary.
Right, there's a repeat going on there.
Yeah, I've got that. Yeah.
Right, so Doug, just check. Since you came on.
Hello.
Hold on. Right, Sean, can you just carry on so we can avoid that echo?
Yeah, I'll give it a go. Yeah, I can't
go
hear
on.
anymore.
Can you?
Yeah. So, what we talking about? Yeah, I mean, I think for me, when you think about TV shows nowadays, when you think about TV shows nowadays, I think the issue with them is, well, to be fair, I disagree. I think that they're good at doing creepiness and tension because obviously you can get to know the characters more across a series than you can just a film. But as to whether they're as truly chilling as films, it's a funny argument there. To be fair,
well,
I'm just.
Go on, Cliff. 70s, it was a general level of creep out that probably shooting for. They didn't want to go to anything that would rustle Mary Whitehouse's feathers, but they pushed that envelope a little bit. I think we got it at one point where it was kind of a scare fest, and then that turned into sort of mimicking that and changing the model in a way that's not scary anymore. Back in the 90s, X-Files hit, and I think that was the first time it had both be kind of creepy, but it had some genuinely really scary jump scare type of things on there, which rolled out into Millennium, which was kind of a semi spin-off, same idea, same creators. True Blood, and one of my favorite TV scare fests, which was The Strain, which is another just totally different spin on vampires, but that was an insanely scary TV thing. Now we seem to have gone into some sort of zombie apocalypse trope, which isn't terrifying.
I don't know whether this is 6 decades of TV now, and this is, if you look at the history of TV, have we got to the point where they're resorting to tropes and formula? And the snag is, yeah, you can have a vampire story, but it's been done in so many different ways. I think this is where Doctor Who at the current state is in this. He's decided that behind the settee isn't something he wants to do, and I'm just wondering why he does that. The Christmas episode was almost farce. And I just wonder, why is Doctor Who going so far away from what it wants to be or is good at? Remember, when RTD got the job, the BBC said, we want to go global and we want you to do it like Stranger Things. Now, some people in the thread might say, well, Stranger Things can be really scary. And I've seen a few, and I understand that it can be pretty dark. Doctor Who has not even bothered since the specials to do that.
It's a lack of creativity in my eyes. I think it's an issue across the board. I think it's
TV's gone
more for. I'm
yeah.
I think it's more for more gore. They've gone down the gore line, and I do agree with what was said earlier, that I think that's an issue, because when there's too much gore, it takes away from that underlying dread a lot of the time, which is a shame, really. Yeah, I just think there's a lack of creativity, particularly with Doctor Who. I think it's symptomatic of shows in general that I think there's a lack of creativity from the people there, and they just want to. That's why you get more reliance on tropes, more reliance upon heavy politics, whatever that may be, because they've got nothing. They've got nothing else to hold the hat on. I think it's a shame, really, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make any. I would say that it's not so much I don't want to upset anybody. It's that I think they genuinely think, the people making TV, a lot of them genuinely think that people don't want to be frightened. That,
I honestly think the TV exec. Well, put it this way: TV executives who understand TV, they're a rare beast in the first place. But I'll assume that the TV executives who do understand TV, I think they're scared of scaring their audiences. I think it's easier to just do a kind of event TV, spectacular space adventure thing. That look at what RTD does. He's found the formula. In 44 minutes, it's sorted. It's reset. It's done. He doesn't want us to get bogged down in a story. He doesn't want us to get bogged down with cliffhangers. He doesn't want us to get that thrill. Now, you were talking about, jump cuts and stuff like that movies tend to do. I mean, Doctor Who doesn't even do jump cuts. I mean, we hardly get anything. They give us a pre-credits moment, and it's just a moment. You don't kind of go, oh my God, I'm scared stiff. And then you're into the program. That's it. Doug, let's have a look.
My 11-year-old, like, regularly now, we've got him every day. We can watch another episode of Lost. Another one with some. It had a long game narrative, but in episodes, maximum creep factor and lots of intense scenes and moments and stuff like that. And that's just not something I don't think it's I think it's both the lack of creativity, but
no creativity at all.
Agenda.
So Doug, as a father,
hello.
Yes,
hello.
I know. As a father,
okay. Yes,
as a father, I'm talking about 2025 now. So, am I being unfair to TV executives? Because is it risky for people now to scare the kids, for example, with TV? Because a lot of parents now would actually be troubled by that. Or are we just being too sensitive?
We're being too sensitive. Sorry, carry on. Yeah. Carry on.
I mean, I'll ask you, Doug, first, then I'll ask Cliff, because Cliff's a father as well. I mean, as two fathers here, and yeah, your kids might be growing up or still growing up, but the point is, do you still think it's something that's important that children should face via the TV lounge?
Absolutely. Firstly, apologies, everyone. I had a power cut moments before I came on air. So, hello, guys. I've not met you before. And I hope you can hear me all right, because I've had so many technical problems. To answer your question, I think everyone's just being too soft. I mean, when I was a kid, I grew up with scares, and turned me into a reasonably well-adjusted person. I think there's a lot of fear. Yeah, there's a lot of fear about being too precious with the. I reckon we should scare the little kiddies, scare them. That's what we're supposed to do. I think that there is a fear. Maybe it's political correctness. I don't know what it is. Maybe they're afraid of people complaining, but it's gone very soft, I think.
Doug, do you think it's like they're scared of negative feedback? Everybody,
Yes.
If you've had a power cut today, so somebody's going to text you saying, "Was our service okay at getting you right again?" You always get this email or text, and everybody's obsessed with customer service. I sometimes wonder whether the TV executives as well are going, "We don't want a complaint." I mean, they don't need Mary Whitehouse now. They're just scared of one parent who just says their kid had a little bit of a shake watching a cartoon, and that's the end of it.
That's exactly right. I don't know why, but it seems like they're just too afraid to scare us. I can't explain why this is happening, but I've really noticed it over the last few years, 5 years particularly. I guess there's that fear of offending people, but good old-fashioned horror is not offensive if it's done well. I mean, it's like going on roller coasters, isn't it? I mean, we all have to be scared to a degree.
But I suppose this is and we're going to do comedy in a moment, but comedy, as you know, is under threat as well from television.
Yes.
And I wonder whether television and scares are two things that TV executives are risk averse on now. What do you think, Cliff?
Probably more so even in the States than in Great Britain. In England, it's BBC controlled. So it's all one corporation that gets to decide whether it's appropriate or not. That has its own dangers, which, everything's going through the same filter. Over here, the risk control is based on commercialism because every network has companies paying them millions of dollars to advertise every 18 minutes. And if you do something that ticks off or rattles the audience too much, and then they stop watching and your ratings drop, that's lots of money. For Coca-Cola to constantly have an advertisement during your program, and bigger rated things will garner bigger amounts of high dollar advertising. So,
you hit the nail on the head there. You hit the nail on the head. It's all about money, isn't it? That's not creativity. It's about money.
And that's why I think it's formula .TV. Sean, great to hear from you, Grant G. We've got a fan. The gay shooty Gatwa hoopetty is what scares you. He's here somewhere. He's here. I could get him.
It scares me.
So
he's a better actor though.
Yeah. Well, there's a plus for Jamie. So and as Mad Macam, I always say Mad Macam. He must laugh every time I say this. I know he's a Macam. DEI resulting in TV companies not wanting negativity. I won't bore you with my job, but be assured our brains need to be scared, have experiences, and be pushed past comfort to teach us how to cope. I totally agree. Sean, where do you stand on this one regarding, do you think executives... Right, number one, am I overhyping this? Are there TV programs out there that are scary?
No. I think, and as you know, I tend to review films. I'll stay off them and stick with TV. But I think it's a problem across the board in media that I think there's a big lack of understanding of what people want, and I think they think, oh, everybody wants this. No, they don't. I think there's a massive lack of creativity and a lack of talent. Talent that gets to where it needs to be for whatever reasons. Don't know. I'm not psychic. I think there's an issue with that, and I think they're so risk averse because they daren't throw money at stuff, and they continue to throw money at. All we get is, you talked about Stranger Things earlier. Stranger Things isn't scary. The first series was all right, but like every other Netflix series, they've dragged it on for 5-6 more years than it ever needed.
Spot on.
And I think it's a problem. It's a problem across the board. I just think they don't want to try anything different. They don't want to be dangerous. They'd rather sit in, and I know I don't want to stray too much into films, but they want to stick with what's proven, whether it's a particular genre. Everyone likes reality programs, so let's make them till people choke. There's a general lack of, just look at. I know this is a bit off piece, Brendan, but and obviously it might get lost on our foreign correspondents. Apologies, gents. But look what's happening with like even the soaps, EastEnders, Coronation Street, Emmerdale. It's not Emmerdale Farm anymore. He's doing quite well, funnily enough. But look at the soaps; even they're struggling because the storylines are boring. I mean, you go back on YouTube and you watch classic Coronation Street from 20 years ago with Deirdre, Ken,
see,
Blanche, Mike Baldwin.
but I want
It's
to know.
unbelievable television. You know, Richard Hillman. Look at it now. I know
What
that's a
is
bit
getting
random,
me
but you know.
is 1 minute I'm hearing, I was in teaching, so I hear about the mental health epidemic that's in our youngsters since the COVID lockdown. So you park that thought, and then I see all those 1970s public information safety films we watched, and were scary as hell. I look at some of the scares in Doctor Who. I look at Armchair Thriller, I'm going to mention later. And I could do a list. You mentioned Threads. We were scared of nuclear war. Terry Nation
Threads was...
on TV. I mean,
that was devastating.
how did we get through our childhood in one piece without one counsellor session? Whereas now it's like a mental health epidemic, and we don't show any scary TV. I mean, is there a correlation there?
This is my counsellor session, so thank you. I feel much better now.
It's forgetting that that you can learn things from TV. It can be used, and I know this word's been changed in recent years, the perception of it at least, but it can be used for messages. It can be used to show. You might remember this, people, a few years back, heroes, role models. Oh, I've got that to watch. Quatermass in the Pit. I've got the Blu-ray next to me. You had all these things. It gave you things to watch.
Well, I've never.
And
you see, I've never seen Quatermass in the Pit, but my dad has told me about it, and I've seen clips.
It's really good
of the TV series, and he said it did scare people. And so the point is, my dad's generation, where they'd grown up without TV. They had radio, and then TV came in, but he would tell me it was a lot of adventure series on TV, a lot of there was certain genres, but yeah, Quatermass was one of those that crossed over, and then Doctor Who followed into that wake. I just don't know why, other than the conclusions we've got, which is that TV execs now are risk averse, that they're scared of making the parents angry with scaring the kids or scaring the adults, or that so many adults now say they've got some mental health predilection that you can't trigger them with something that might get them hypersensitive. I just wonder if TV executives are just looking the other way and going, let's just make some cheap tatty drama.
Well,
yes, you've said it exactly. Yeah. I was just going to say.
I think it's important. I think in that context, it's important to know that one of the few scary. I mean, I watched Stranger Things with my 11-year-old, and it was a little bit the feeling that I had. But I'm sure my parents watching Doctor Who with me. I mean, it's got some scary moments to me, some shockers, but to him it was just the most, right? But it came out on Netflix. It's not a network.
Yeah.
So the executives there they've already got it locked in the subscription. They're going to take some risks. They're going to try to do some programming that's a little different because their market is just people who just want to watch Netflix. Now we get to network television or BBC. I really don't. I think that risk aversion is one thing, agenda is the other, marketing is the other. But it goes back to what he said before. There's just doesn't seem to be much of a talent pool or a way to write on a different spin because it's starting to get a very same across the board.
You've hit the nail on the head, I think, definitely.
Yeah. Well, why? Oh, hey.
It's all about content now. They all talk about content, not proper program. Everything is fodder, and everything is called content. This is going slightly off track, but there was a quote recently that Barbara Broccoli was in a meeting with some Amazon executives to talk about the future of James Bond, and someone referred to her show as content, and she went off a nut. It's nothing to do with creativity now. It's just about filling content and generating income, and that's it.
I mean, Michael Nemo, thank you for your super chat. He says, what do you think of this? Since The Sopranos, narratives have thrived by displaying cruelty of one person to another or humanizing villains. Doctor Who doesn't fall into these trends easily. New writers don't get horror. I mean, I look at the last series of Doctor Who, while it gives you thinking time, lads, on his question, but you know, we had Space Babies. Space Babies, that was nout. You had The Devil's Cord, which was a musical kind of insert. That wasn't scary. Boom was just standing on a landmine, but you know it's going to not go off because he's your hero, for goodness sake. Rogue, well, he went into the bushes with a space villain. I don't think that's scary in that way. Tech coming back as a dog on a leash, no. There was no scare.
No.
So, but you did have humanizing villains. He has them as gods and everything now. If I asked you, first of all, Doug, did you watch The Sopranos?
Yeah, it's a favourite show of my partner Sam's. It's so well written, and the characters are so well rounded. It was a really good show.
So, what do you reckon to his question or his statement? Narratives have thrived by displaying cruelty of one person to another or humanizing villains. It's less about that's the only place the scares are coming from. One thing I would say, Michael Nemo, is one of the things I've got down for the Spy TV tonight is Spooks. And everybody with Spooks remembers the bit when that poor woman's head was put into the chip pan. And that was cruelty to humans, but that was scary as on what your enemy could do to a spy. What do you reckon to this one, Cliff?
I think it's accurate. I mean, it goes back to, Doctor Who really was when I really got into TV. Before that, it was, like I said, like Sid and Marty Krofft, Land of the Lost. Those kind of little bit of Scooby-Doo was a little scary. It was okay. But it's this idea of a long narrative where you're telling a full story. Because that's another thing we haven't really touched on is what's the whole point of fear?
Yeah.
Why are you trying to make people afraid? And it's just to learn a different lesson than comedy can achieve. You want people to be a little standoffish of what you're showing because you're trying to make a different point. Davros in the wheelchair was to give you that sense of dread, so that he's annihilating an entire people,
Cliff,
so that Doctor Who can make that should I choose speech, right?
Yeah.
That's where the terror is leading up to. Is that
absolutely
that trigger switch where you're pulling?
You're rehearsing lots of things. I really, really do think it is important. Now, Hasler Scott has come to my rescue as well to say, as a therapist, fear is very important in human development. It plays a big role in our intuition skills that keep us alive. Check out the book, The Gift of Fear. So there you go. I haven't read that one, but I agree with you. You've got Grimm's fairy tales. Go all the way through. Kids want to be scared, and kids talk about being scared, and they want to share their experience with others. And as we were talking about Davros and Genesis of the Daleks, to me, Davros was an interesting character. Of course he was. He was iconic. The Daleks chasing you down a metallic corridor. I have rehearsed in my head, how do you get out of it? Because it's scary to be thought that you're trapped with a Dalek behind you. And so your mind is playing so many fast tricks. Your adrenaline is working out every kind of permutation. And I think that's what the kids need. You said, Doug, it's a bit like a roller coaster. Exactly. And as you were saying, Cliff, with the narrative, you need time when you scare people to have the quiet time when you build anticipation.
Yeah, one of the scariest moments in the Daleks is Sarah trying to escape by climbing the scaffold.
Yeah,
I mean, it's that tension between safety and falling to your death or whatever it is, whatever the danger is. That's teaching you a lesson. Not only there's always a way out. even if it's not the way you expect. And you have to have that buffer of fear so that you can kind of deal with other things
I think
in life.
I think you're right. I think it comes down to there's fear on one hand, and I think there's a massive issue nowadays with resilience or lack thereof, and how crucial that is for your life in general. And I think just to keep it on TV, I think horror's changed in terms of it's not frightening you, it's more the horror of corporations and stuff like that. So, I mean, some of the things I was going to bring up later on, but I'll bring them up now. Some of the more frightening things I've watched from a different point of view in the last couple of years would be, well, 2017, Chernobyl, which is unbelievable. Dope Sick as well, which is another one. If anybody hasn't seen Dope Sick, miniseries with Michael Keaton.
It's great.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, so many people have recommended that to who've never seen it. It's really, really good.
It's great.
And it's more like our fears have kind of changed. Not our fears have changed, but it's kind of they look at it more from like that empty suit, the grit, who's really pulling the strings. And I think it goes along with that. But yeah, I think I want more of these because it's good writing to frighten people or unnerve people because I'm trying to think of something I watched recently that really unnerved me. It'll come back to me. But it gets your mind working for me.
There's nothing human about Squid Game to me.
I've not seen it.
Wrong. All that is a game where somebody might step on something and something goes through the next bed next to you.
I think that was just a fad. Apparently, Series 2 is not doing very well. I think we're all a bit over it now.
Well, I think a lot of people are getting over it. They realize that this doesn't work. That show, I don't know what was with you.
Let me mention this one. I mean, I've brought my own case studies, and everybody can bring their own. And please, I'm enjoying what the thread are saying as well as the panel. Me and Doug have talked about this. Doing talking TV, we'll never be on top of it. There's so much to talk about. We'll try our best. We will try our best. But Doug will tell you at the end of our show tonight that he does like a Big Brother, Little Brother. He does a Doctor Who Unleashed. And so he will do a follow-up of today's discussion. But we'll talk about that a bit later. But Armchair Thriller. In the 1970s, this was on Thames TV, ITV. And it was just that armchair at the beginning, start off. You just had, quite simply, an armchair lit up, and then this silhouette staggers a bit to the chair, and then looks as though he's sitting on it. The shadow sits on the chair. Now, the music freaks me out, and just that the way he staggers to the chair, and suddenly the hands just go stiff. That freaked me out more. But there are one or two stories that got me. The Faceless Nun. Oh my God! When that nun with no face chased a kind of new, she was like a Jemima Shaw. Whoa! I'd asked my dad, "Can I stay up to watch this?" Big regret. Big regret. But I was talking to John Daly about this the other day, and he said, well, we've watched these again now. And sometimes you get the DVD and you think, oh, I'd love to watch that again. You watch it again and you think, The Faceless Nun was one moment in a very sedate story. But whether that falls into Cliff's idea of you need the quiet anticipation time before you get that moment that everybody talks about at school on Monday. The other one with the Armchair Thriller was this man was staring at this flat all the time. I remember him standing by a lamppost, and I remember there was a moment he sent chocolates to this woman in the post, and she could see him outside. He was stalking her. And then when she checked out the chocolates, there were a dog poo. I remember that moment, but he was stalking her to kill her. That was a serious bit. It was always very sinister stuff. There's your good old Salem's Lot at the window. I think that caused a lot of grief for a lot of us. And then one more I want to show everybody is Tales of the Unexpected. Somebody mentioned this earlier, but there's so many different episodes. Now, the one that got me was called The Landlady.
Yeah.
And she basically poisons her guests in her bed and breakfast. And so he's having a cup of tea that tastes a bit of almond.
Oh.
And, she's very nice. He looks around the room and he notices that everything in the room isn't moving. It's stuffed. He's 17. She likes young lads with young skin, she says. So it's very like Red Riding Hood. Oh, look at your face and look at your teeth, Grandma, blah, blah, blah. But it gets a bit chilling when she touches his skin. Anyway, it starts to freak you out. And then right at the end of the episode, you see her in this kind of medical outfit. And there's one of her other bed and breakfast guests who never left. And he's stuffed. He's been embalmed.
No.
And you just get this chilling storyline. Isn't that beautiful?
How did you not need therapy?
No.
So, and this is what I mean. I was only about I don't know, it was about 9 or 10, and I didn't know that.
About the same time that I
Talk about
but this is
we'll talk about stranger danger. Go to the Ron bed and breakfast, and you never leave. You'll be embalmed.
Yeah.
So,
Ugh.
Yikes.
I don't know what everybody.
As long as it's a decent breakfast. As long as it's a decent breakfast.
So there you go. There's a few tasty ones there. There's the armchair thriller, which was classic regarding the shadows, the freaky music, the disturbing imagery. This one.
Sorry, I remember that someone just commented on the episode where the woman, her husband's a police officer, and she kills him with a leg of lamb. Is it a leg of lamb, a frozen leg of lamb?
It's called Lamb to the Slaughter. Yeah.
That's the one. Great one. Love that.
I teach it in GCSE. It's in the GCSE, so I know it pretty well. Lamb to the Slaughter, but
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, now Roald Dahl knew how to do it. I know he's not PC anymore, unfortunately, but he knew how to disturb you. Paul Richards remembers The Landlady.
The Witches is disturbing. That book is so disturbing. The Witches.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's great.
Mm-hmm.
So, Stephen Braddock, another scary memory is the episode of Thriller where the woman kills her husband. Yeah. Oh, sorry, you've just read that out. Sorry.
That's what reminded me. Yeah.
Good Dalek Lives Matters when Tegan and Nyssa became infected and aged dramatically in minutes before Peter Davison's era was a shocker. Terminus. I just wanted it to end. It was like a killer story, I found. But we all have our different things. But Paul Richards says, yes, armchair thriller is no good. I remember the old lady who was upset her toaster was broken. It's the haunting theme, as Stephen Braddock says. So you can see me. There's me. I'm out in my kind of therapy woes there. So take yourself back, Doug. Come on, you can see how this would really get to me. What's really got to me on TV and why?
I'm very much a horror wimp. A lot of these things scare me so much I won't watch them, but I love the more supernatural. My favourite was The Night Stalker. The TV show I loved, but that got very samey. But the original Night Stalker movie, my God, that terrified me. It was just so well done, and obviously Darren McGavin stole the show because he was a hero, but he was a scared hero, so he was very identifiable. So it's definitely stuff like The Night Stalker, the X-Files. You can't go past the X-Files.
Yeah.
And back when I was a kid, early episodes of Doctor Who, because I didn't know any better. I mean, I literally did hide behind the sofa, as cliche as it sounds. But a lot of the stuff on body horror I can't do. Anything that's too realistic. The world is a scary place as it is. I don't want to be reminded about that. But more fantasy-related things like The Night Stalker. Supernatural is another one. I love Supernatural. Not always scary, but always very, very enjoyable. I think the scariest thing for me is the familiar, and that's what Doctor Who does so well, is like an everyday object in your everyday environment. I know it's not television, but one of my favourite movies is Invaders from Mars, where essentially it's seen through the eyes of a child, and his parents are aliens because they've been taken over. I didn't trust my parents for ages after that. There was an identifiable mark on the back of their neck, and I kept looking on the back of my parents' necks to make sure they weren't aliens.
I was always
that scares
checking.
me.
I was always checking for 3 6s on my brother's head, but anyway,
That's
I'm just going to deflect for a
Go ahead,
moment,
Brent.
Cliff, just because we'll liven things up just to keep things going. So let me just start us off with this item. Okay, so bear with me, lads. So
goody goody.
it's very, very slow tonight. Is my lovely restream, but that's how life works. But I want to ask you all very quickly, what made you laugh with TV? So we're just gonna kind of take a kind of detour for a moment, just to kind of liven it up. So, different experiences, different ages. We've been talking about what scares you, but since we think actually humor's dying a little bit, and it's more risky to do comedy now as well. What do you reckon
really
from your childhood, from your adulthood? What actually properly makes you laugh? So, for example, I was showing then as a clip. You've got on the buses. You've got Good Life.
You're talking my ballpark now. That's lovely stuff.
You've got Frank Spencer, Vicious. 2 elderly gay men who are vicious with their tongue.
Are they ever?
Yeah.
Are they ever?
Adams. Now, you see, the Adams Family is an example. I loved watching the Adams Family, and you could hear almost, and I don't know if it was canned laughter, but it was a certain type of laughter. And it was not laughter that made me, I didn't laugh at it. I just enjoyed watching it. So what comedy TV did you watch, or are you watching, where you thought, oh, yes, that's what we need more of, Sean?
Oh, God, how long have you got? I'll give you a quick list because I love it. Obviously, my dad's influence, Steptoe and Son, one of the best things ever made. Dad's Army, Still Game, a Scottish comedy, which is as good as Steptoe and Son.
Oh, isn't that great? I just discovered that. It's fantastic.
Still Game's amazing.
Fantastic.
My favourite all-time comedy, Red Dwarf, of course. Scrubs, Cheers. I love the Bottom series with Rick Mail, the late great Rick Mail, and Ade Edmondson. I could go on and on. I absolutely love comedy.
What makes well, I'm trying not to do just lists. You know what I mean? I'm trying not to do just lists, because the whole point is what makes us laugh, and why aren't they doing it now?
Well, because sorry, I thought you were asking me a question. Sorry, Brendan. Sorry.
Yeah, so you're seeing examples here. I mean, The Office is a new type. You might laugh at it, but you're not. It's a funny laughter, isn't it? Because you're not. It's not like the studio laughter that you sometimes got in the 70s shows. I don't know.
Sorry, Brendan.
I'm just thinking, because there's so many different things to say with comedy. You've got, that some of the comedy was sexist and racist, and it was, and that's true. It was abusive to the point, it was ridiculing people, and that was just cheap humor, easy writing at the time. But there's still a lot of 70s and 80s comedy where I think it made you laugh. Fawlty Towers, I have to say, well-written farce. But the Goodies, Bottom, The Young Ones, Blackadder, Monty Python, all of those did that kind of more rebellious, just pushing the boundaries a little bit.
Ripping yarns.
Yeah. So if I asked you, Doug, what makes you laugh in TV, but then why aren't they doing it now?
It's funny. Humor is very subjective. Firstly, when you hit onto The Office, a classic example of how not to do comedy, and I haven't seen the whole episodes, is I'm embarrassed to say there's now an Australian version of The Office, and by all reports, it's terrible. So something's gone wrong there. I really, just lately, I've been getting into that show Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is fantastic. But my favourite comedy, and I think we have a similar taste here, Brendan, is One Foot in the Grave, mostly because I am turning into Victor Meldrew, and I'm quite proud of it. I think comedy is very subjective. I mean, I love all the old 1970s
Yeah.
sitcoms. I did a thing on my channel a while back about how a lot of it doesn't really work now, but some of the classics like Fawlty Towers, Porridge, Open All Hours do work. I tried to watch On the Buses recently, which I loved. I think it's a little bit mean-spirited, that humour, so it doesn't work for me. Morecambe and Wise, obviously, they're obviously perennial. I don't know what makes me laugh. I think there's probably a sadistic streak to me. I quite like laughing at the misfortunes of others.
You see,
but it's a tough thing.
you see, culturally speaking, let's be honest, the British love to laugh at class. And so
yes,
you said it, Sean, about the death of the working class writer. Because, Love Thy Neighbour, On the Buses, a lot of those are really about working class. And that's why they won't show them now. Or they say the trigger warnings now, because the working class are all what, according to certain politicians. We are all dangerous people. The working class, keep them in a shed somewhere. And as you know, there is comedy on TV where it's all, you might crack a smile. It's very middle class. It's all very...
The worst example, which is the best example to give, which I'd advise our Australian contingents to go watch, just to see what the BBC thinks is comedy nowadays. Go watch the MASH report. Go watch that. That's exactly what they think that we were. And that chunk or kunk or whatever, I'm trying to be careful how I say that.
Yeah, kunk.
That chunk of whatever, yeah. Oh, I mean, the actress was very good in Afterlife, but it's I just do not get that at all. I think it's
no, I've seen that on YouTube. It's terrible.
I just don't get it. And they're saying how good it is, and I'm like, I just don't get this at all.
It's terrible.
I don't get it.
I like the kind of history.
Yeah.
Trip, but that goes into my theory of comedy, and it is the inappropriate. That's what comedy is. The pie in the face is something you know is wrong. You know that's wrong. Stepping into something that's horrible. Yeah. Those things, because for me, it was all the precursor of the Dick Van Dyke Show and Bob Newhart and all these kind of subtle,
Bob Newhart, what a genius,
sitting around, and they're funny. But then that same time that I got Doctor Who, it was led in by the program beforehand was Are You Being Served? And afterwards was The Goodies.
Yeah.
Oh, what a trio.
Suddenly I was just like, it was like a whole different paradigm of how to think and watch TV when I was about 8 years old.
Wow.
It was pretty crazy. Those are very unexpected types of things to get when you're
and Mad Mackham is saying now, I mean, about a year ago, me and Jamie started watching. We'd heard people mention it, and so we eventually sat down to watch Schitt's Creek, and it grew on me. But the other program I will mention now is during lockdown. We're all bored. We end up looking at YouTube and various things. Friday Night Dinner on Channel 4 we'd not watched.
Oh, that's
and Friday Night Dinner has that lovely balance of it could really happen. It feels like your family, but it's also got a well-written farce to it as well. And it's just neat. The other one is Two Doors Down. And so they're still out there.
They're just harder to find. I think it's going back a few years, but it's still since 2000. You've got more rebellious things. You've got like Snuffbox, Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. So we've got these.
That's good.
I went to see him. I went to see Matthew Holness read one of his new books. He was hilarious. Oh my God, what a funny guy he is. And I got to meet him, and I got my book signed. And I loved it, honestly. There's some perks to living in England sometimes. But
you're so lucky.
There's some great stuff. Matt Berry's Animals. If you're having a rough day, go on YouTube. Type in Matt Berry's Animals. It's Matt Berry narrating a nature program in the only way that he can. The IT Crowd I thought was very good.
I love Matt Berry. What's the name of that show where he plays an actor? I love that show.
Because it's
that's so good.
Ray
It's so good.
Yeah,
so is it?
Sorry, Brendan.
is
It's
it
so good.
possible that these ensemble, you know, It Ain't Half Hot Mum, Dad's Army, Are You Being Served? They've tried to do remakes of them, but what I'm thinking is whether you thought they were sexist or racist or this or that or stereotypical or homophobic and all the blooming slurs in history, I still enjoy watching them. And I just wonder, why is it not possible to make an ensemble piece comedy now? Or are they making them, but no, I haven't spotted them. And I've seen so many in the thread. Michael Nemo, you've said it. Zero Room Brian said it. Benny Hill. Now, Benny Hill was taken off ITV,
Never.
and he was given that unfair treatment. He was given that kind of label. We know the label, and that was the end of him. And yet, you found that so many countries around the world, because of his visual humor, very like Mr. Bean, he was really popular, and he wasn't.
In America too.
But not every sketch he did was seen as sexual. There were some really funny characters, and yeah, I think you're right, Michael
Fred
Nemo.
Scuttle.
Benny Hill was a creative genius, and unfortunately, he then became labelled.
Yeah, very much so.
And that is always the curse, where all these TV executives, whether it's how to scare, how to make you laugh, it's all formula. And yes, I think always one or two creep through. I mean, Now You're Being Served was a one-off play, wasn't it? It's just that there was a strike and they were desperate for material and they put it on and it was a hit.
That's right.
Steptones was the same.
That's right.
That
Yep,
was one of
Steptones.
Tony Hancock's half hour called The Offer.
Yep.
That's a brilliant. I think it's like shows that back then you thought were, well, not that far back, but like I grew up with Little Britain. That was massive when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time, it was laughing at people who had views like that, and it was a commentary on a changing country. In a lot of ways, it poked fun in every single direction, which is equal, right? Surely. Anyway, but watching that back now, because I bought the DVDs because it's nigh on impossible to watch online, and you've got to kind of have the physical copies. It's massively underrated. Third series isn't great, but the first couple of series, the jokes, some of the subtlety. You got Tom Baker's narration. First time I ever came across Tom Baker. You know, it's a surprisingly good comedy, for what it was. And I think, yeah. Sorry, mate. Go on.
No, it's all right, because I'm trying to be universal as well. I mean, Mad Mackham from Sunderland is mentioning Taxi, and of course, I never.
Cheers is unbelievable.
Taxi was great.
Yeah, sorry. There's a lot of an American one.
Frasier is so well.
Oh, I couldn't get away with Frasier.
Yeah.
I couldn't. It's her terrible English accent.
Frasier.
Sorry.
I'm just trying to say regarding.
Oh no, Frasier's good.
I'm just trying to say regarding American shows, that, you know, from Golden Girls to Cheers to Friends to Rhoda to Laverne and Shirley, Happy Days. I mean, you could go for ages on that one. To Get Smart, to go further back.
Oh yes, Get Smart.
All originated from All in the Family.
Yeah. So the point is,
that same era.
The humor did cross. Most of them were done by writers' rooms, weren't there? They were done. You could see how there was a rhythm almost to their storylines and how they structured them. But I mentioned,
but those are all still
to a degree,
the same creator too. All in the Family and spinning off into the Jeffersons, spinning off into Mary Tyler Moore and Rhoda. Those are all kind of from the same genesis.
Yes.
But yeah.
Well, of course, All in the Family was based on Till Death Us Do Part originally, wasn't it? It was an Americanization of Till Death Us Do Part, but I think it was actually more successful. Certainly in America, anyway.
And the only reason I'm bringing it up is because it goes back to the pie in the face to me, is that Archie Bunker, or the same in the British version, was an offensive guy. You had everybody else react to him and tell him why he shouldn't be offensive, which was from their own slightly offensive point of view.
That's right.
It's kind of why Faulty Towers works. It's all
exactly
about tension. It's the same thing why Fear works. And I think it's the same solution as to why TV's not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
We love it.
Offense of
I'm sorry, the thread is on fire. I'm trying to bring them in. They've got so many ideas. Hasler Scott.
That's
We
good.
Americans can't make a good sitcom anymore, hardly. They used to crank out classics seemingly effortlessly. You see, I was brought up starting from a wee little kid when we went from black and white to colour. I remember seeing the opening credits to the Mary Tyler Moore show where it was very colourful. That's what I remember is the colour. And New York. Is it New York? It must have been New York. And then she, Mary Tyler Moore, you got Betty White going into different things. You got Rhoda. You got so many different things from that. Addams Family, the Munsters. You had a fair bit of stuff there.
Oh, the Munsters.
But we've got so much to cover. So I want to make sure that we've actually got a fair bit in, lads. So if you just bear with me, my next quick title before we go back to the bit is this one. Bear with us, because as you know, the tech tonight tries to be slow, but it's Top Spy.
Yeah, what's going on?
Top Spy TV.
Oh, come on. There's no contest, Man from Uncle.
So, yes, it's very slow, isn't it? It's fascinating how it's doing this, but there you go. It doesn't matter. So
it's worldwide, maybe, because
anyway, so I'll just kind of rattle through these, and then I'll ask Cliff first because I know you're time pressed. But top spy shows from your kind of memory that you thought, yeah, that worked. I'd love to see more of that. I'll just flick through these while you talk.
It wasn't something that I recall ever until I got way later in life repeats of, maybe the Avengers. Things like that.
God, yes.
But the one that stands out most as being like just immersive, and it was probably along the same lines as Mission Impossible was when it first aired, because I didn't even see those until way later in life. Was Alias. Alias was. It ran the gamut of pretty much all we're talking about here. It had a little bit of the comedy slapstick, as the punctuation, but it was a little bit of spy, a little bit of sci-fi. It was Mission Impossible redone and reshaped in the right way with Jennifer Garner. But yeah, that spy stuff, it didn't come to me until way later when I was finding them.
When I was listing these, I kind of came up with a theory. I just thought whether it was spooks or earlier stuff. But before you actually list what you like, the point is, I think a lot of it is because we're all kind of brought up with that Second World War collaboration and the SS and what happened. And nearly everything is pitched with that kind of, I don't know, there's an element to that with the torture and capture and everything. And I just think Cold War, sorry, how can I forget Cold War? I'm a Cold War kid. You're brought up on the Cold War. Give me a spy story, anything set in the Cold War. Please make it 60s or please make it the 1940s. One of those two, please. Now, spooks played into that pretty well. Although it was not the same era. Now, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, obviously based on John le Carré's novels and Smiley's People later. Let's face it, you watch that now, very, very slow. But as a kid, I was enwrapped. I was really interested. The Professionals.
Oh my God!
You've got Man from Uncle. Yes. There's a fair bit there. So, Sean, where would you like to go? You're from a different era. Spy stories. And why do you think we still like them? And again, why are they not making many?
I don't know. I think probably maybe a cost issue. I think on one hand, Deutschland 83 popped up. I love those when they came out.
Yes,
thought they were brilliant. I actually wrote down for my favorite. It's one of my favorite TV series ever. For spy TV, I wrote down 24, but I don't. Is it? You could argue it's kind of a spy, but not really. So
no, I'd say it's a spy.
It's a lot of underhand stuff. Mad Mackham, only the first series 24. I don't know. Series 3 was pretty good.
But with the spy ones that you list, do we want spy ones where, Mission Impossible, nice little adventure, did you ever feel as though everyone was at risk of dying, like in Spooks? What level of seriousness of edge do you want in your spy series?
No, like 24
Oh.
pushed the envelope pretty much.
Well,
I know,
Sean,
obviously,
Sean,
quite the same.
Sean,
Yeah.
me and you agree on Deutschland 83 as another example where that's grim. It's Cold War.
I've not
It,
seen
Yeah.
that. I'm not familiar with that
I
one.
think
Yeah.
me and Sean would recommend that, wouldn't we? Because you've got
Oh,
subtitles,
massively.
but it's grim, isn't it? It's grim
Yeah,
Cold War.
incredibly grim. There was two spin-off. There was two sequels, 86, Deutschland 86
Yeah.
and 89. But yeah, there was
Okay.
that was a brilliant series. That it really was. It was the most successful foreign TV show to be shown in years. It's set in East Germany. So yeah, it was brilliant.
I think the mention of 24 kind of lends to what I see as the sort of the formula of American spy television, maybe American spy everything. It wasn't so much a matter of the danger, whether somebody's going to not make it out of the episode or not. It was about how can the hero get out of this predicament. One of the best that I've seen now is it's a current series on with Jeff Bridges called The Old Man.
Oh, that's good, isn't it? Oh,
He's an ex spy who had to duck out because he got run out by being betrayed by the agency, and now he's being drawn back into it. But he's almost 80.
That's good. It's definitely good.
Spectacular.
Yeah.
It is so intense.
You've got a Jeff Bridges vibe to you. You know, you've got a bit of a Jeff Bridges about you. Maybe that's why you like it.
Maybe
You can see yourself.
Cliff, I know. Thank you for coming on. I know you've got a dash off, so I'll say thank you, and
I will leave everybody with another one of my absolute favorite sci-fi scary TV moments, and I encourage everybody to check it out if you have not already. It's a German series called Dark.
Oh yes.
It runs the gamut of action, suspense, thriller, scare fest, sci-fi, and I can't tell you anything about it because I will spoil everything if I say anything. It's that
very
tightly
clever.
3 seasons long, and it's just amazing.
Very clever.
Well, have a good day. Have a good day, Cliff, and we'll
thanks again for having me, Brennan, and y'all.
Thanks, Cliff. Nice to meet you,
nice
mate.
to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So we're back to our main debate, lads. It's not gone away. About
Can anybody else hear?
You didn't ask me about my favourite spy shows.
Well, go on, carry on. I'm just juggling 20,000 things here.
I'll just be quick. It's obviously Man from U.N.C.L.E., The Avengers, a very controversial one. I Spy. I know we've got the whole Bill Cosby thing, but I Spy was just really brilliant. For me, though, the spy thing wasn't so much the danger and everything. It was the high adventure and the James Bond influence. So I guess we've all got different things that we get out of it. But Man from U.N.C.L.E., Avengers, and I Spy. That's me. Back to you, Brendan.
That's all right. I mean, it's just. I mean, I didn't quite hit the Avengers. I got the new Avengers, and as people have said in the thread, the new Avengers, it wasn't the same. Obviously, I knew the Joanna Lumley.
It wasn't the same, but it was good. It was good, and it led to the professionals anyway.
What I'm trying to do, because what I'm trying not to do with Talking TV is that we just list 2,000 shows and then say that's a show. I'm trying to look at why was the Avengers so popular. I've kind of loosely put it under spy. What was it they were doing each week? If you get my gist, what is it about the Avengers?
We've discussed this before, and I think for me, it's the Diana Rigg version that gelled with me. I think I've mentioned to you, I can't remember whether it was Talking TV or something else, but the Kathy Gale one was completely different. It was all videotaped, and I think the Avengers, it was the stories. They were very offbeat. Yeah. The Emma Peel version, and to a degree the Tara King version, it was the stories, it was the interplay between the main characters. It was set in an idealized Britain that really didn't exist. I mean, if you check, in most scenes, there are hardly any extras. It's usually empty villages and just the main characters. A banger of a theme tune. I mean, I'm back to... I've got this thing about theme tunes. I don't know why, particularly from the 60s and the 70s. I don't know. I think also Emma Peel was just one sexy, strong lady. And I love bowler hats. There you go. Bowler hats and umbrellas. Not that I wear them much in Australia.
It was just
But I don't know. It's just lightning in a
it's
bottle.
just interesting when I look back now. I mean, we've just been watching a documentary, right? I'll just say that, a 4-part documentary on BBC about the 7/7 bombings, right? Now,
it was terrible.
Okay.
It was terrible.
What?
Sorry, the document. I turned it off after half an hour.
No, I thought it was stunning. But the reason I'm saying it is because the way it was, as you go through, you see what each police officer, etc., did, and it was almost a bit spooks. I just thought the point was you saw how the real spooks were trying to deal with the 7/7 bombings and trying to chase people. And you know, it made me think, why am I liking this documentary so much? In many ways, because of the detail and the information, but also because I am craving some fictional spooks. I need spooks back. I mean, spooks to me was gritty.
Okay, here's one for you, Brendan. I don't know if you have Apple, but you must see Slow Horses with Gary Oldman. It's spooks-like, but with a lot of humour. Gary Oldman steals it. And if you like spooks, you will love Slow Horses. It is a brilliant show. I think there are 3 seasons on Apple. It's worth just subscribing to Apple just for Slow Horses. There you go. If you like spooks, you'll love Slow Horses.
I'll take a look. So,
it's great. It's great.
So our original debate tonight, and we got so far. So this is where we really get nice and analytical now, and really need to chew on the cud of all this. So basically, what's the state of play regarding TV and where, what we're up to? Doctor Who, which was famous. I mean, it's famous for saying behind the sofa, suddenly is doing anything but. You've got series out there that, and yet what's funny is soap opera, which you mentioned, Sean. Soap opera are trying to go dark. They're always getting people buried underneath, slabs, and people are murdered in the factory. I mean, these are all death traps in soap opera. Now, they're all trying to go, when they can, a bit murderous and dark, whereas Doctor Who is trying to go light, frothy, inconsequential, insignificant. And I just don't understand why clearly the TV executives are sniffing their nose at it and turning the other way. I just don't know what's going on with TV at the moment, apart from
I'm totally baffled.
So, sorry. I'll carry on. We've got people here saying Star Cop's underrated but brilliant. Simon Anthony also Out of the Unknown, Best of Everything. Now, Space 1999 has been mentioned a few times. Star Trek's been mentioned. I'm trying to think of episodes when certain moments. I can't off the top of my head name a Star Trek episode. I can see probably 1 or 2. Those what was it called? The Mentoids. What were they called? They were bald. And they had that mental power, and they were torturing the original Captain Pike. And
that's right, yes.
They were scary. They scared me in Star Trek. They really did.
Yeah, they were scary.
Yes, and it was all about mental power.
I loved it.
Go on, Sean.
No, I was thinking of the episode where I think it's in series 1 of the original series Star Trek, where, and I think it's one of the best Star Trek shows I've ever seen, where they have the episode where they have like a planet and they're at war with each other and they fight. It's like a Cold War-esque. Remember when they did Parables on TV?
Yeah.
And instead of like blowing each other up, they like play essentially battleships. So they play like a game and they say, right, we've hit this building, right? Everybody in that building into the disintegrator. It's absolutely brilliant. And obviously Kirk lands and he's like, what the hell is this? Like, what do you mean? You just step into the disintegrator? Because of course he falls in love with one of the women. So yeah, I think that's a brilliant episode. I absolutely love that one. I can't remember what it's called, but I love that one. Section 13 as well. I rewatched Star Trek Enterprise recently, and I loved the Section 13 aspect of that the fact that there was a temporal Cold War didn't really play out because obviously it got cancelled after 4 series. But such a good, I mean, looking back, we didn't know how good we had it with Star Trek Enterprise. Personally, I think
Enterprise
it's
was
an
good.
absolute gem.
Enterprise was very underrated.
I mean, I've listed. I mean, if you really think, and like I said, I'm not trying to do lists. I'm trying to find analytically why they worked and why they're not doing them now. So, for example, is it David McCallum's The Invisible Man? That scared me in the way that you got. It was like the Omega moment in the Three Doctors when they took the mask off and there was nothing there, and he had to paint, as you know, a mask onto him. And I remember being so kind of intrigued by that. This kind of, oh my God, what and he was in a pickle sometimes. He would sometimes be so totally stuck. There he is. You can see in that top shot there that the back of there's nothing there. And usual, it's like the Hulk experiment that goes wrong, and he's invisible all the time. And yet he had a wife. It was always intriguing that he had a wife she can't see him. I don't know. Maybe it's a
Did anybody? I tell you a series that I loved that hardly anybody seems to have watched, even though it had some good actors and it lasted 2 series. It was called Afterlife.
Yeah.
And it aired in 2005 to 2006.
That rings
Leslie
a bell.
Sharp, Andrew Lincoln.
Oh,
she
yes.
plays a medium.
Yes.
He's a university lecturer.
Yes.
I'm going to do a series on my podcast about it.
It's very
each
good.
episode at one point. I loved that. I've got them on DVD because you can't find those online for love nor money.
No, they were good.
Unbelievable series. The theme tune for Afterlife, the 2005 series, was creepy, and I love the stories. Like, it's not all amazing, the original, but I love that kind of that kind of ethereal. Is there something else?
I tell you that the other one.
I've got one.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go first, but I've just thought.
Yeah, it's Simon Anthony's making me think of it, which is the other Star Trek one. We've got the Captain Pike one in the cage, but the other one was when it was a doppelganger, and because of how he was beamed back aboard, it split his personality, and it was a kind of Jekyll and Hyde episode, and. You got to think Captain Kirk when he was really sinister and angry, and as a kid to see the hero, it's a bit like when you see Tom Baker in The Invasion of Time, when you're going, "What you up to, you?" and you're not sure. When your hero does something completely different, not as bad as Twin Dilemma strangle your companion, but you just go, "What's going on here?" Now that gets you tense. You need no monsters. You need. You don't even need dark lighting, because I don't think it was darkly lit scenes, but he just looked a bit more sweaty, a bit more shifty, and it got you on edge. What were you going to say?
It's just one that popped into my head for no reason. Does anyone remember a show called She-Wolf? I think it was called She-Wolf. I came across it by accident. I've actually bought the DVD. I think it's got a different title in America. There's nobody in it that's a particularly well-known name, but it's a British production called She-Wolf. It's got dark humour. It's filmed in and around England, and it's so good. But it was a not very successful show, and I think there was a second series financed by America, and they totally destroyed the concept of the show. But if there's anyone out there looking for a good horror show, look up She-Wolf. It's fantastic.
Hasler Scott mentions The Man from Atlantis. Now, it was a good adventure story. I remember it because obviously Patrick Duffy, who was later in Dallas, had the webbed hand and I could swim. It was like he was like Marine Boy, but in real TV.
Yeah.
I can't remember any episodes, Hasler Scott, where I was scared.
No.
But yes, it's a good call out. I mean, yes, it's part of our 70s, isn't it? Patrick Duffy swimming with, and it was the webbed hands thing that I remember. You remember daft things sometimes, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
Now, Lee Smith mentions, and I nearly put this as part of my, PowerPoint, because I can't do a PowerPoint on every show that scared us. We'd be here every day. The Life and Loves of a She-Devil by Faye Weldon. I do remember it was early 80s.
Dennis Waterman was in it, I think.
Yeah,
Dennis
and it
was one of the actors in it.
Yes, I think he's the husband. I think.
Yeah. I don't
Now you
remember the
see,
actress, but she was quite popular for a while. She ended
yeah,
up appearing
Julie,
in, yeah, she was really good.
yeah, oranges are not the only fruit. Now I've taught that, but forget the teaching bit. I remember the actual scene. The girl doesn't know she's gay. Little girl, her mother's blooming a brute. It's a true story by Jeanette Winterson. But what you saw was the girl was really mentally abused, and the
Oh,
girl was picked on, and religious all the religious group, extreme Methodists were bullying her and oppressing her, and they forced her, they tied her down, and they tried to exercise the gayness out of her. Now, and
disgusting.
again, I knew nothing about my sexuality, but I just thought, oh my God, that was horrific to see this poor little girl. She was a cute little girl. She was just a bit of an oddball, just had some interesting observations on life. But she stood out a mile, and these women who should have known better oppressed her, bullied her, and scared her the EBGBs out of her because they said, "You've got the devil in you, got the devil." The priest shouting at this little girl. So I have to say, when you talk about what scares you, years later, when I realize I'm gay, gee, God, when you think of that's a version of gay conversion therapy, shocking. So yeah,
Terrible.
I'm going to call out oranges are not the only fruit as a kind of outsider, one for you there. Sean, as you're thinking here on what has scared you or thrilled you or makes you feel uncomfortable.
I, sometimes it's I'll go totally off piste. It's more when you watch real life things, so people who go caving and get stuck.
Yeah.
Or there was a really frightening, and you can find the clip online, and they've never found the guy. And some people have said it's fake, but they've never debunked it. It was filmed in, I think it was beneath Paris, in the catacombs, and they found a camcorder in those days, and they wound it back, and they found the footage, and they played it in this documentary, where he's filming these catacombs, and obviously they find where he was, and then he starts getting panicked, and he runs, he drops the camera, and it lands in a puddle, and it sees his feet run away, and he just runs, and the tape runs and runs until it runs out, and they've never found him. And that I don't know how old I was when I saw it, but that's never left. And I think about that every now and again, just like somebody who ran.
Yeah.
And I don't care. I don't think it's fake. I don't really care. It was such a frightening thing to watch, that you could just run and disappear. That kind of thing just absolutely freaks me out. And I think it's why I like reading mysteries, and I like reading,
those,
kind of survival things like that.
Well, talking about
it's that thing of like,
talking something that disturbs you, and good call out, Richard Brown, and we're all sci-fi fans as well. Cold Lazarus. Now, Cold Lazarus, I think it was Brian Cox was the actor, and his head, he was dead.
Yes,
he was frozen, and they brought his memories back to life. And it was almost like a mental rape, because what happened is he has no choice. He has no body. So he can't stop them invading his memories to solve a case. So it's
very creepy.
It's creepy, but it hits all the issues about privacy, because I think we've all had that dream in a way that, and it won't happen in our generations, it'll probably happen in the future, where you can be born and they can put a camera in your retina. And so everything that you have in your life is kind of, for your own sake, recorded, but I know it can be used for dodgy purposes, and we like that in sci-fi. But but the thing is, the Lazarus character, that he couldn't stop you from going into your memories, whether they're embarrassing, sexual, you're just going on the toilet. He couldn't control any of it. And I just thought that is a mental form of the rape of a character's everything. And Richard Brown, quite right, because that chilled me, that God, how, you see, that's what gets me sometimes with Doctor Who, and that it's this helplessness. that moment when you cannot stop something happening to you, and that's when I play it on my imagination, and I'm thinking, you are kind of awake as this called Lazarus, but you cannot stop the people from reading your thoughts. That's gross.
I mean, it goes back to what we were saying earlier about Doctor Who, where and I can't remember who said it, where it's the most mundane that you make frightening. And Moffat was a master at this.
I said it.
You've got, the vast. Sorry, mate. Sorry. You've got the. I know it wasn't me. You've got the Vashta Narada. That every species has an irrational fear of the dark, but it's not the dark. It's the Vashta Narada.
Exactly.
You've got the Weeping Angels in the first story where don't turn your back, and that goes back to how people disappear. There's a great episode of Torchwood called Adrift, where people have been caught up and they're being taken from Earth accidentally because of the rift to random places. And Torchwood, Captain Jack is bringing them back and trying to help because they wash up, kind of wash up again later, and they're damaged and traumatized. That's an unbelievable episode about, do we care for people? Do you really want to know what's happened if somebody's disappeared? And I think that's a great episode. Torture doesn't get the credit it deserves half the time, but I love that episode. That kind of the mystery of people who go missing, and I think that unknown is what really taps into your deepest, darkest fears. And I think when a good writer, which I think is what we're missing, can tap into that and go, no, these aren't just people who ran away. They're actually, they're getting washed up, or things like that. I love stuff like that. Well,
you can imagine Stephen Moffat as a dad from some of what you've listed there, but the other one is the crack in the wall. A simple crack in the wall, and he can make a story out of it. You can imagine being his two sons going, "Oh my God, our dad's going to scare us to death. Don't have him babysitting you when our mum goes out." My God, you can. This is what you want. But I'm going to ask you two lads, and I'm going to ask the thread here, because since we're talking about TV that scares, and have they forgotten how to do it, and why are they not doing it as much? I'm going to ask you the straightforward question, everybody. Do you think Doctor Who, for example, should go back to behind the sofa scares? So everybody in a thread now, a yes or no. Should Doctor Who be going back to the scares that we would recognize from the 70s and the 80s, particularly? Classic Who.
Definitely.
And when we start seeing some of the answers come through, we then start to say, so why, therefore, is there not more scary TV out there when clearly the audience wants it? So we're just waiting for the threads to make their decision. Go on, Doug.
No, I agree with you. Unfortunately, I don't think it will happen. I get so frustrated by producers of TV shows that I love, particularly Doctor Who. We've talked about this before, but for some reason they're not listening to the audience, which seems to be, apart from anything else, a really bad business move. I mean, it's all about content and money. So why are they ignoring the fans that are telling them very specifically what they want? And they're giving us what they're giving us. I would love to see it go back to. I would love to see a total reboot of Doctor Who. Forget about the continuity. Just start again. A man traveling through time and space in a blue box. Make it scary. Make it gothic. Make it cheaply, so we're not dependent on people like Disney.
Well, here we go.
Well written. Yeah.
Well,
what's the thread saying?
Well, here we go. Lee Smith, yes. Simon Anthony, yes. Super John,
Good.
Yes. Stephen Braddock, absolutely yes. Hasler Scott, yes. Heather, yes. You've got Lewis Morris, yes. Richard Brown, yes. Mad Mackham.
Are you watching this RTD? Come on.
And I asked a simple question. It's a yes or no. And it could have gone the other way. You could have all thrown egg on my face, but hello.
No, that wasn't going to happen. That wasn't going to happen.
So far, I'm looking, and please point out if I've missed somebody. That's 100% yes. So
no surprise there.
So the next logical question is, why are TV makers not giving the audience what they want? We pay the
I
license
don't
fee.
know.
I know,
don't
but
know.
it's not as simple as it's just that.
They know better than you, Brendan. They know better.
Is it
They
arrogance?
know
What
better
is
than
it?
you.
What is it? It must be arrogance.
I think I think I don't know. I don't know. I don't know whether they just. I think they know what's best for us, and they're
Oh,
putting that on the TV. Like the main crux for me with Doctor Who and TV as a whole, but Doctor Who primarily, I want it to take itself
yes,
seriously again.
yes.
It
Yes.
doesn't take itself seriously anymore.
No.
You watch it and you're like, there's no stakes,
Yeah.
there's no horror,
No.
there's not even to be frightened, but it just doesn't take itself seriously. So if it doesn't take itself seriously, why should I take it seriously? And it's not helped by a lead character who I couldn't take seriously
Sean,
Mm.
if he was,
Sean,
I couldn't.
Sean,
Anyway.
I'll add to this, right? Here's an
Okay.
example. So I'm trying to explain. I am not anti new Doctor Who. What I'm anti is the very point you're
No, me
making.
neither.
So if we go to the
No.
if we go to the Church on Ruby Road episode, the Doctor is apparently in peril. He's got a blue Smurf King Jabba the Hutt who's about to eat him and his companion. And instead of you going, how can he get out of this? He sings a song. And if it's not taking itself seriously, then why should I commit to an hour of my time?
Yeah.
Mm.
And that's your point, Sean. It's even worse than saying, why should I bother with this? Why should I bother even watching? If you're not taking it seriously, if there's no jeopardy, if there's no, I mean, you said early doors, Doug, about the roller coaster. If you go on the roller coaster for the scares, then the quiet moments, then the scare again. And to be
Yeah, exactly.
thrilled, and as you know, what happens at the end of the ride, the one you weren't going to go on, you want to go on again. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's simple psychology.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, I remember being a little kid thinking, oh, I'm worried about these sea devils, but I'm going to watch part 2. And and you root it to the carpet and you watch the next episode and it scares you and you're worried about it. And who's that master person? And you're there on your own. And part 3, you're there again. Because there's something addictive about it. And there is something about getting the juices going, getting the adrenaline going, getting everything fired up. And if you're just watching going, oh, that's a good laugh, Stephen Moffat. Oh, they're doing Christmas Star. Oh, that's good. I can read a book. I can go and entertain myself to get twee nonsense. If you're talking about proper drama and jeopardy, go and then show you're a good writer.
They've got it wrong as well. Like, because if there's anybody who's watching this, because I mean, I don't know if they are, but we have heard that people, and I would if I was in that position. We've heard people from BBC, different shows, watch these kind of streams because they want to find out what people think. They're not implementing it by the looks of it, but what the people think. And if this ever got back to Russell T Davies, I'd say thank you for introducing me to Doctor Who. You've made some unbelievable series over the years. We want you to win. There's nothing we would love more than if you, after this second series, you had a bit of a think, you gave your head a shake, and you even if you lost the Disney money, you came back with a Doctor Who that was more akin to what it was in 2005 through to 2010. And you brought, there's nothing we'd love more than to sit here and pore over a series and go, oh my God, did you see that? Oh my God, did you see that? Oh, weren't we wrong? Look what I had in his locker. Yeah, a couple of roper years. But look, there's nothing we'd love more. I think, as Mad Mackham said, it's as likely as knit and fog. But we would love it. And I think that's what people, I think they must look at fans kind of mourning or picking narcs out of it really legitimately, and I think they genuinely think that it's just toxic gets thrown around. It's we love this because if not, we wouldn't be talking about it. We wouldn't be bothered.
Yeah,
exactly.
We want a show to be unbelievable. I'd love to turn around after series 2 next year or this year, sorry, and say to Brendan, you know what? Don't know what happened with the first one, but that second series was great.
Oh, wouldn't that be fantastic?
I wanted it to be awful. I'd love it. I'd love it, and I would eat humble
But
pie
as
all
Heather
day
Me
says,
too.
if it gave me
as
good
Heather
TV.
says here, okay, so the crux of this whole discussion, to my thinking, is that children today have gone a bad way because they haven't been frightened just a bit by TV. It builds character and confidence and more. Heather, this is a lot of our argument. When the discussion about whether they should have scary TV is just like, why they're editing Roald Dahl? Why would they be editing Grimm's fairy tales? Why does somebody else seem to know better than all the people who went before? And there's some danger or disease going on in 2024 and 25 where the people in power of everything seem to think that they are the most perfect individuals to judge the rest of humanity, to judge Charles Dickens, to judge William Shakespeare, to judge Terence Dicks, to judge how the war games should be done. There's this mass judgment that everything in the past was just not good enough. And now we're going to be saved because everybody's who's in power now knows better. Now that's nanny state gone off the radar. That's what that is. And it's also, as you said, Doug, you said, Doug, is it, you said as a question, is it arrogance? I'll give it as a statement. It's arrogance. It has to be, because how dare they? How dare RTD?
It has to be, doesn't it?
They are retconning a lot of Doctor Who. Why don't they just come up with new Doctor Who? Why don't they just come up with new concepts, new ways to scare us? I will give Stephen Moffat that credit. By the way, me and Jamie the other day were watching The Impossible Planet, that's followed by The Satan Pit, written, I think, by Matt Jones. It wasn't written by RTD. Everybody, if they're talking about a scary Doctor Who, will go to Midnight. And I will say, yes, that was a good psychological one. But actually, most of the good Doctor Who's that scared you, you mentioned, Sean, not World War III, how dare I? The World War II one.
Yeah, the Doctor Dances and The Unearthly Child, or something.
And of course, that was Stephen Moffat. RTD has not written much scary Doctor Who.
It's true.
No, he hasn't. No,
Midnight,
That's
maybe?
the only one. That's the only one I can think of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a shame. I mean, who wrote the one? I thought about this earlier and forgot to mention it. When I watched it, the episode with magpies, the coronation one, where they had the faceless people. I can't remember what it was called. It was before Fear. I don't think it was
I remember that one.
Wasn't the strongest episode. I mean, beautiful compared to what we've got now, but
it had some scary images.
Yeah,
though.
like that. The way they would creak their hands because they had no face, and it was just they had some good stuff, and it's just such a shame to see it.
Nice
I'd rather it wasn't
on
than And Maureen Lipman. Are you sitting comfortably?
Yes.
When I'll begin. Can't remember what it was called. I don't know why, but love that.
Was it Devil's Lantern or something like that?
Idiot's
something
Lantern.
Lantern.
I think yes, yeah. Idiot's Lantern. That's
there
it.
we go.
Yeah,
that's the one. Yeah, because it had the guy who played Parker in it, didn't it?
Yes.
That's
it.
That's
I mean, and you know, I mean, hello, RTD brought us the Absorbal off. You know, you've got to think, you know, there was no scare in there, and then there was this dodgy sexual scene with a pavement. That's basically what he gives. You know, take away sexual titillation, take away the humanization of the Doctor, take away soap opera, take away all the things that RT, and he does create some event TV, you know, like the hoax regeneration of David Tennant. The Stolen Earth is still one of the most exciting episodes of Doctor Who I've seen, and I will give him credit.
Do you know how amazing how amazing that opening is? Where you see like they talk about like the Sutek thing, the end of this. Oh my, that series there, that last one where they have Martha in New York and she wakes up and she's unconscious on the ground, and you've got Jack in Cardiff and you've got Sarah Jane, and you know they keep talking about we want a multiverse, we want to make Doctor Who like strange. You don't need to make Doctor Who like anything. It did it before they even started the MCU. Let's not. They had a whole world there, and that's
well
such
said.
like you're right.
Yeah, well said.
You've got the unit guys. The guy who says to Martha, "Get out of here," and he stands and he's firing, and they're like, "Oh, I absolutely love it." Like
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
that was the guy
Martha,
from Dempsey and
look at the
Makepeace, I
sky.
think.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
unbelievable.
I mean,
yeah.
We honestly,
when you think,
it makes me sad that we don't have that
when you,
anymore. Like I know they're not perfect, but
it's just.
what the
It's
hell
just
happened?
they seem to be scared of showing too much death and everything. I mean, there were 4 deaths, I think, on Christmas Day, which is not bad for Doctor Who, considering they don't like to normally do it. But it was done very quickly. They're scared of. But the other thing I will say about Doctor Who and some other programs, when we talk about what scares you, is we do seem to be drifting away from having monsters. We had the Bogeyman. The Bogeyman wasn't serious in Space
The
Babies.
Bogeyman could have been so good. They
Those-
spoiled that.
Those slugs in Dot and Bubble was maybe a good idea, but not in the middle of the daytime and not going at 2 miles an hour. You know, I mean, you could
There were
run away
no
from
good
it.
monsters. There were no good monsters or any decent villains in that whole series. I can't pick one. I don't know if you can. Not one that resonated
No,
with me.
because they're going for humanoid. Yeah, they're going for humanoid villains. It seems to me. Yeah, Cliff Maxwell's given you the titles, Sean. Rebel Flesh and Almost People rose to what my expectations of who.
No, it was that was a good one as well.
That
I
was the
enjoyed
first
those ones.
one.
And set in the castle with.
Yeah.
I was thinking of Idiot's Lantern for the first one because it took your face, didn't it, the TV? But yeah, you lost your face.
Yeah, you always have to lose your face. Stephen Braddock. Actually, the
Yeah.
Absorbaloff wasn't supposed to look like that. The young artist, I know it was Blue Peter. I know. The young artist was really disappointed as the original monster was bigger than a double-decker bus and much scarier. RTD made it comical. I know. I have no problem with the Blue Peter link, and they used to do that in the 60s as well. So I've got no problem with that. Yeah, RTD. If you want to invite kids to design a monster, and you think you've got the ability to wrap it into a great story, do it. But unfortunately,
Do it properly.
I don't know what that kid must think now because everybody slags off Love and Monsters, and it must be a shame.
Yeah, because it wasn't their design.
Yeah.
I think the episode without like the Absorbaloff, which is a bit of a strange idea. I did like the idea that the Doctor would have these,
the fans,
the Linda, the London. You know, they would have these fans. I did quite like that idea, and I like the idea of him finding this little group of people. And it did have a kind of the execution is not good, but it had a kind of good idea there of like, you know, maybe that's what happens when you get close to the Doctor. Even for a second, it's all this death, which has been like a theme throughout. I quite liked the execution was terrible, but there was a good idea.
Stephen Moffat's kind of mentioned this, that him and RTD in this new era are obsessed with how, you know, what do the companions think once the Doctor's left them behind, and is it because he's mysterious, and is it because think, oh, for God's sake, stop making it into a soap opera. Scare us, stick us on a planet, end of episode 1, a door opens, you see a hand. Come on, get on with it. It's not rocket science, but they seem to be scared of doing that. And I come back to what I said at the beginning of the program, and I don't know what the threads theories are. I've appreciated you sticking with us with all your millions of examples, but why do we think we can't just have a monster that shows half an eye, has a husky voice, you see a bit of a hand in episode 1, then you see a bit more of them in episode 2. Why can't we go back to good old scaring people? Is it something to do with body horror that they're scared of doing that? Is it because they're scared of... Is it because monsters are sometimes a distortion of humanity and they don't want to do any fat shaming and this shaming and that shaming? I just wonder what the hell is going on. Does the thread have any ideas why we're avoiding monsters? I know Simon Anthony says he liked that monster in Dot and Bubble, and Paul Richards says Dot and Bubble is a rip-off of Machine Stops but with added slugs. I remember the tractators in Frontiers. At least they were darkly lit, but they weren't moving fast. I mean, even that machine that cuts your head off and everything. I mean, you can walk away from that. I mean, that was, you know, it wasn't anything to be scared of. I still think you can't beat a Dalek coming down the corridor and there's no way out. I mean, I just how do you get out of that?
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
It was for me. It was like the Daleks flying in. That was it's like they had that. Was it series 14? It was Tom Baker's and like a Blu-ray release, and it had a trailer with Leela in it. And she was on a cliff top.
15.
Oh yes,
15, 15. Sorry. Oh my God, I watched that and like she's there. the guy's saying, "Well, you need to get away. You need to get away." The doctor's giving this, and as he's saying it, he just gets zapped,
Yeah.
and these Daleks rise, and the music, and that's the kind of fear that, like, even like obviously because I'm the younger, like the newer kind of Doctor Who, like the fear that the Daleks would bring, that like that music that Murray Gold made for them, that was almost like a ethereal orchestral kind of like the Herald of Doom. Like I loved that. Like, yeah, they lost it a bit when they showed millions of them.
Yeah, they need to make the Daleks scary.
showing, like,
yeah, they need to make them scary again.
They need to not bring them back. So X-Man says, thank you for your super chat. The RTD is jealous of the Key to Time series. Now, the Key to Time series, as you may know, we had 6 stories. People slag off the Armageddon Factor. They tend to. I like the Shadow in it. I love the Shadow in it. I thought he was some grim, emaciated master again. I was hoping for that. You had the 2 Guardians, human-eyed villains. One of them. You had that I can never say it, in the Rebus operation, that little monster that guarded the crown jewels. The Androids of Tara was a good one, but it didn't have really monsters in it, did it? It was all about the androids. You had the Stones of Blood, where the Stonehenge moved at the same pace as the Dot and Bubble as the Dot and Bubble slugs. And then the Power of Kroll was one of the worst CSO shots in history, when you saw that big kind of strange jellyfish thing on a very flat plate. I don't know what X-Man. I'm trying to be fair. It's not my favorite season. RTD's jealous of the Key to Time series. Do you mean with all the arcs and all the rest of it? I'm trying to think. What do you reckon, Sean? Have you seen the Key to Time series?
No, I'll have to give it up. I'm literally been writing lists for half of the stream of things I need to watch. That's the thing. If you're not getting good stuff now, you go back. You go back and watch it, don't you? I've literally got the Quatermass and the Pit Blu-ray over there, so that'll be getting watched soon.
What about then? I'm looking for Divine and Dragon's comment about the haunting. I might have just missed it. Let's have a look. Sorry. Here it is. So, hiya, Divine and Dragon. Sometimes the terror needs to be unseen, as in the haunting in 1963. Now, I'm just thinking, where you think Doctor Who's going at the moment, it's all gods. There's a theory that we're going to get the Mara next, and we've got Mrs. Flood, and then you've had Sutek and that. Yes, they're visible monsters as opposed to Divine and Dragon's idea of the unseen, but they're so surreal and beyond normal life, as you were saying, Sean. I'm not interested. And when you have Doctor Who up against a god, I know there's not really a chance in hell apart from some stupid hocus pocus reset button. I'd rather have us in a village on Earth, and he's up against a tangible monster.
Yeah, lower the stakes. Increase the jeopardy and lower the stakes. So it's a village or a house or a city. Stop this saving the universe shit. It's done to death.
There was an episode, and I watched it and reviewed it for my podcast. It was dreadful. I watched The Flux. I watched it so you don't have to, was the subtitle.
Sorry, I did.
Yeah. There was an episode in that I believe was called The Village of the Angels, I think, or Village of the Angel.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
And it was like a village.
Bad.
It wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was like the one little like decent idea. Because at that point, the angels have been used to death, and they were just throwing every monster into that Flux series as they could. But that episode was decent because it was like a village marooned out of time.
Yeah, that was a nice idea.
It had the drop. I mean, it had the brilliant moment when the Jodie Whittaker Doctor turned to stone.
Then they threw it away.
And they threw it away. And I'll make that criticism of old Who as well, of classic Who, that I don't approve of cliffhangers that you can get straight out of within 1 second. No, and one of my worst ones was either Snake Dance Part 2 or Part 3, when somebody with a samurai sword was about to kill Nyssa, the Doctor. There was a group of them, and that lad with the permed hair. And, that's the end of the episode. And then you tune in the next day, and of course, his mum goes, "Stop." And you go, "Oh, for God's sake." That's you've just set that up for, that's almost like clickbait. That's naughty, that.
Yeah.
One of my favorite cliffhangers, and it was before the credits was in the Dr. Dances episode where you think they're going at the end of the episode, you think they're going to get attacked by all the gas mask zombies. Then the doctor steps forward and he's like, "Go to your room. I'm very,
Yeah, that
very
was
angry
good.
with you." I love that one. I thought that was
good.
hilarious.
Well, it fitted the logic, didn't it? It fitted the logic of what was going on. So, yeah, you can do that once in a while, but most weeks we just want him. I want the doctor looking a bit worried. So X-Man here, I have to say this Doctor Who, without the Master or the Daleks and the Cybermen, takes away from Doctor Who.
Is that the first series we've had since New Who came back without the Daleks? I think it is.
Might
I think
be.
Any mention? I'm sure you get a glimpse of them in Flux.
And I'm sure there is, that on one of the trailers, we wonder whether we can see the Dalek City. We wonder. I don't know. Heather, you know what's frightening about New Who? The concept that the hero can't save anyone. If he does more to the point, lads, what do you reckon with what Heather's saying? Because I think if your hero is diminished, if your hero is insecure.
Such a good point. Good point.
Yeah, and if your hero is too emotional, I'm not knocking people being emotional, but he's your hero.
Yeah,
and he's an alien.
Bursting into tears every 3 seconds.
No.
5 times Shooty cried in that Sutek thingy. But Heather's completely right. I mean, they've lost the essence of what the Doctor lost it during the Jodie Whittaker era, and they've lost it even further in this new one. One of my favourite parts about, and I know I keep going back to New Who, but can't help it. It's what I grew up with. The Eccleston series where Father's Day, where Rose accidentally gets past her baby self and the Doctor's like, no, and grabs the baby off her. And it's a paradox. It allows one of the Reapers into the church. And the music in that episode's unbelievable. And the Doctor shouts at everyone and says, "Everyone get behind me." And he stands in front of everybody and he says, "I'm the oldest thing in here." And he lets himself essentially get killed. Well, he does get killed to try and protect everybody. And that's what the Doctor should be. He should, at that point, be like, you know what, maybe it's time. Like the 10th Doctor with again, Gabriel Wolf's brilliant voice, but with the Beast, where he's like, "We're going at the black hole and I'm riding with you." There's like that's what you want out of your hero, out of your main character. You don't want somebody going, "Come on, 15th Doctor, jump on the bike. Here's your helmet."
Yeah. Well, we've got. I mean, I'm just got some of the thread in, and then I'll ask Doug about his show. So, X-Man, can you imagine this Doctor Who crying in front of the Daleks? Surely you need a hero. He can be fallible. The Doctor was always an anti-hero, let's be honest, but can have a sense of certainty. So I'm happy to be scared to death of the Sea Devils as a little kid, but I trust in the John Pertwee Doctor, even if he has a little rant now and again with the Brigadier. Eastland Burkholder, good to see you. The hero takes action, makes a difference, if not fixing everything. Yeah, we saw that in Warriors of the Deep, in the Silurians, doesn't solve everything. Dalek Lives Matters, the Doctor should be bored until in danger. Well, life to him is tedious, and he's fired up by jeopardy, isn't he? He runs towards it, not paralyzed by it like the present one. The Peter Venkman fan site, the Doctor has never been anything but confident until the past few years. But if you want a song, he's your man. If you want a song and dance routine, he's your man. If you want to break the fourth wall, he's your man. But jeopardy, no. And of course, can I just say, on breaking the fourth wall, if you break the fourth wall, there is no jeopardy, because it's a nod and a wink to the audience. I mean, you've lost, haven't you? So RTD and all the showrunners of present day Doctor Who, are you wanting to entertain and do cheap Morecambe and Wise laughs? I mean, Morecambe and Wise know how to do it. I like variety. Or are you trying to do Doctor Who? Simon Anthony, Shooty is only half the Doctor. He said so. I really hope he comes back together. I know Simon's been saying this theory for quite a while. Now he's hoping that the bi-generation is a ruse and we get them back together. Cliff, who has been on our show, he's obviously done what he's needed to do. There's loads of times when Doctor Who is scared or worried or even terrified, but it's because he's not come up with a plan yet. Yeah, well, that's good. Crying about things is what babies do. Laugh out loud. I know we don't say anything about the crying per se, because you can't nowadays, but the point is, Is that your only trick in town, Shooty? Is that it? Stephen Braddock, remember when Eccleston's doctor faced thousands of Daleks and the Emperor and Rose was their prisoner? Did he cry and give up? No, he doubled down and actually scared the Daleks instead. Yeah, and not the Gathering Storm, and the something like that.
Oncoming Storm.
Yeah, because it was actually a paraphrase of Winston Churchill. So, Doug, when we've done our Monday 8 p.m. shows, you also are moving on to a deep cuts too. Do you want to tell the audience about this?
Yeah, it's a bit of an experiment. It's sort of an unleashed, really. I'm going to do an after show, which will have some highlights from this show. Maybe put in some video clips of some of the shows we've been talking about, read out some comments that people leave, maybe have some opinions, and maybe get some more feedback on what they feel about talking TV, where they want us to go, and generally just get some interaction happening. So I'm hoping people will come over to my channel, Boomer Doug, on Tuesday and give me some feedback, and I'm looking forward to it. It's officially episode 2 because we did kind of an experimental one New Year's Eve. But yeah, it's going to be some fun. So please come over and check it out.
So there you go. So it's a bit like Big Brother, Big Brother's little brother, Doctor Who, and Unleashed or Confidential. That's how it's working out. And if you write any comments in to our YouTube, following this show, Doug will look at some of them and maybe reply to them, as in talk about them, and
read them out and just comment.
But this is only 2 shows in. Talking TV, we did one on New Year's Eve, then I got the Space Plague, and we've done this one. So we've done what scares you and why they're not doing it now, and we've had are they killing their audience. There are so many topics on television to do. Any suggestions, drop us a line, please, and we'll gladly respond to them. It's going to be a busy week for me. We've got, I'll tell you what, I did promise it last week, but the Sunday this week at 6 p.m., my God, all I'm going to say is be there. I have got a stellar panel. It's a stellar topic. Shh, as Tom Baker would say. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I know I've been doing reviews while I've been suffering the Space Plague, but we are back. 6 p.m. on Sunday. Oh, ho, ho. You need to be there. Get yourself and your popcorn ready. We'll also have saloons going on. The Friday Detox will be on at 11 a.m. on Friday. There's a new series I'm doing with Rachel. Whoa, there's loads going on. I'll tell you, the Space Plague has been here, but it's gone now, and we're moving, baby. Now, Sean, good to see you. Do you want to advertise 1 or 2 of your latest podcasts as well?
Yeah, cheers, mate. We'll do. So I'm Sean from the Review It Yourself podcast. We're on YouTube, but it's not as regular because behind the scenes, rubbishy, technical rubbish. So yeah, the main place to find us is on your podcast players, basically Apple, Acast, Spotify, anything like that. Anywhere you listen to your podcasts, it's film reviews, the odd TV reviews. There's quite a bit of Doctor Who in there, naturally. But yeah, just film reviews without the faff. Have you had enough of critics? Well, probably. Have you had enough of critics giving you all the faff and all the rubbish, and you think I just want somebody to tell me what they think. And myself and my co-host Sarah, who's from the southwest, so a slightly more aesthetically pleasing accent for you, basically go through our film of the week. So what we're at the minute going through some of the animated Batman films. So yep, something for everyone. There's absolutely all sorts on there, from the Dam Busters with a historian to the Jaws series. There's everything up there. So go give those a look.
I've just got, before I go, that so X-Man, you asked me that you tried to find us on Discord, but for some reason it doesn't pull up at the moment. I'm guaranteed on X. DM me on there, and that goes for anybody. Or Gmail us. Those 2 definitely work. Discord has been a bit problematic. So Sir X-Man, I know you're reaching out to me to link up. Gmail and X definitely will work. And they're more reliable for me, for us to be able to link up. So please try that. And thanks for reaching out. The thread, you've been on fire. We are starting to find, me and Doug, where we're going to schedule this. Monday nights, 8 p.m. We're squatting here, aren't we, Doug?
Yeah, 5 in the morning for me, but it's worth it.
I know. It'll be better for him later on, but at the moment it's tough. And I don't mean it's tough. I mean, he's doing this for the love of talking TV. And
Definitely. If I just get the technical stuff sorted out with the audio, and like I said, I had a power cut moments before I came on air. So apologies if I sound crap again. I'm going to have to sort out my technical shit.
So here we go. That was our second Talking TV. Let's see if the credits work and all the usual stuff. So thanks, everybody. Everybody, good night for now.
See ya.
And let's see if we can get the credits.